Okay, so I'm just gonna jump into a video that I want to create as a part two to the one that I just sent out this morning. I have a clumsy phone stand. I wish to talk about balance. In the inner dance process, we reach a kind of balance often by initially going into an imbalancing of the old so that we could find a new balance, a balancing of the new. So, what is balance from uh, an inner dance experience or an inner dance structuralism? Um, one important term of reference we need to keep recurring, to keep repeating, is homeostasis. The body has an internal balancing mechanism. So even when you modify what this looks like, let's say you add something there, then this other side needs to counter the weight just to make sure that this doesn't fall. And this balancing act is really old. We've been doing this for God knows how long, through so many generations, so many evolutions since we started the project. One way of understanding homeostasis is that the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system is well designed to make sure that you don't go too high. When you go high, then a lowness comes. So let's say when your heart races too fast, the body makes sure that you don't get a heart attack. It sends out certain neurotransmitters that make sure that there's a slowing down effect. So when let's say you're like an adrenaline junkie, you like to jump off buildings with a parachute, you like to jump off airplanes, you like to ride roller coasters, the sympathetic nervous system would send out epinephrine, send out dopamine, send out cortisol. Your body needs to counterbalance this by sending out like acetylcholine. It send out serotonin. It needs to keep counteracting, like night and day. Like normally you activate the sympathetic nervous system when the sun is out, because that's the time that you need to get busy. You need to focus. You need to plan your day. You need to do the laundry. You need to take care of the kids. You need to go to work. And then nighttime comes, and it's time to rest. Another way of looking at this is probably during the summer or the sunny days of the year. You tend to be more active in a certain way, and then during the winter or autumn, the fall months, you tend to hibernate. Your body tends to slow down some ways. So high, fast, slow, low. What does that mean in relation to like the music, as it affects like the brain, as it goes into all these brain body states that we're experimenting with? I think the experimentation has been at work for a long period of time. So especially the things that we ingest. Music and food are the same. You listen to certain things, you can activate this, you can activate that. Sometimes you want to go to a warehouse or rave party. Sometimes you want to go into a sunset moment. You go to Cafe Del Mar, you, you sip some coconut, some tea. Sometimes, no, you need to drink coffee. You need to take stimulants. Sometimes you take depressants. And they counteract with each other. Um, the the inner dance happens in the place in between. Um, when you learn how to co-activate these two, um, an inner dance happens. So I wouldn't say inner dance is a workshop or a spiritual modality we're studying now. Inner dance really just represents a very old system in which um, we're like seesawing back and forth. So we could hold more. We could hold more here and here. So I want to look at. Um, Sorry, I hope the barking dog in the background doesn't bother you. I think I'm waking him up. It's at 5 o'clock in the morning. So evolutionists have long wondered, why did we do it? How did we do it? What does it mean that we just decided to get up? We became these bipedal creatures that used to be a lot more grounded. You know, we used to slither on the ground. We used to walk on all fours. What does it mean that we decided to free up our hands and learn to see from a much higher place? Obviously, there are benefits in learning to stand up. You know, we could see more. We could see dangerous animals that might be lurking underneath the the forest growth. We could, yeah, we could just see more. Um, Obviously, we learn to think in a rational way, and we were able to do that by lateralizing our consciousness functions. Like we have a sequential side, we can have a sequential left hemisphere, and we have a simultaneous right side that can process things all at once. This is the one at a time, and this is the all at once. And somehow this mirrors across the sides. The left eye actually processes things in the right side of the visual cortex. Same with the left brain. Like there's a mirroring function. So the left brain lateralizes its operations in the right side of the body. Um, on this mapping, I want to look at the 5 states of consciousness that are mirrored in the brain states, being delta, theta, alpha, beta. I'm going to write that out because it's more important here in this conversation. We want to talk about it. How did we get to this point? How did we get to this beta point where we're now super focused? I've been hearing this question more and more lately. What does it mean that a lot of people have a hard time to drop in? And where exactly do the movements come from? You know, when the inner dance movements happen, are they coming from here, you know, are they coming from here? If you've sat with me over some time, you realize that the inner dance happens all across here. When you co-activate like all of these simultaneously, there's a very mysterious brain state called the mu, which happens behind alpha, that assists in the co-activation of all these. simultaneous co-activation of the super relaxed and the super hyper. So like something in the music brings about a co-implication of stimulation and depression. Um, yeah, so it's interesting to look at it from an evolutionary perspective. There might have been a one point in time when this could have been more balanced out, and the human being, if we were to define it today, is someone or something that um, shifts back and forth from uh, a sympathetic nervous system and a parasympathetic nervous system state. We're unable to remember a time when these were at work simultaneously. Um, if we're high, we're high. If we're low, we're low. They don't know how to talk to each other. They're really far apart, and for that reason, we ask people to lay down. Okay, so tell them rest your head there and just maybe relax and let go. Okay, just stay there. Don't think too much. Um, so yeah, when we go horizontal, we counteract the verticality of our systems, and somehow automatically when you play music, when people's eyes are closed and when they're reenacting the sleep stages, um, an inner awakening happens. Um, I want to correlate inner dance without setting up too much comparative or hierarchical uh, situations. I want to look at yoga. When you do yoga in the modern studio style of yoga, you activate the sympathetic nervous system by doing the asanas, doing your cycles of body postures, like stretching your body to the limit. And at the end of yoga, you then relax into the corpse pose or the shavasana position. Shava being the corpse or the dead body. Um, when you let go, you you reap or harvest the gains of your practice. When you do the inner dance, it's quite the opposite. You relax the body, and somehow the yoga is activated from inside. This is what I mean about breath work. Like so much breath work exercises to try to hyperventilate, so that people could drop in. The more authentic inner dance process takes place when you're able to awaken this through the avenues of that. Maybe that's only partly true because mostly people are coming from highly stressful conditions, and when they go into the spiritual work, either as a group or individually, there's already so much of this happening. So when you ask them to drop down, um, there is then this admixture, co-implication of gamma, beta, alpha, theta, and delta. So you enter this REM dream state, or the inner dance, as we call it. Um, so a common practice facilitators learn is the demo. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. In the workshop, we ask people to go to the middle of the room, and people who may not have experienced inner dance are all watching this person laying down. Now, when you're asked to do that, it's very scary. So there's a lot of palpitation happening in the heart, which is activated by the sympathetic nervous system. When you invite someone, okay, lay down, go to the middle of the room. Um, the heart beats fast, and the brain waves are triggered so that there are these fast rhythms that normally don't happen when a person is just sitting down, listening to someone. Uh, actually, here. So at the moment of evocation, when you invite someone to go into the middle of the circle, this is actually already activating in the someone who is about to lay down. And as soon as you ask that person to lay down and close their eyes, you are now reenacting the sleep stages. So the delta theta waves begin um, to do their thing. The balancing act is already at work when there's this anxiety in the person in the demo. Okay, I don't wanna show myself, I don't wanna show my nakedness, my vulnerability, I don't wanna cry, I don't know what's gonna happen. So there's this anxiety and also this excitement, and when you ask someone to surrender, stimulants and depressants go into an admixture inside the brain, the central nervous system, the peripheral nervous system. So all these chemistries start to intermix, allowing for the sun and the moon within the body to speak to each other. So a flood of epinephrine, dopamine, cortisol, endorphins, testosterone, acetylcholine, serotonin, noradrenaline, oxytocin. There's like a flood of signals um, that brings this about. It's like this starts to seesaw crazily. It's like, oh, I don't want to do this, but I have no choice. I have to surrender. This is more or less like what it looks like in that regard. The body experiences all these. So the inner dance works because of that, because of a facilitator or a room's ability to allow for all of these to intermix, which redesigns the nature of the human. The bipedal, vertical, upright human had learned to focus when it's important and to relax when he or she can let go. We're teaching the human being to go into a more primitive life form where there was a perpetual inner dance or dream state because the SNS and PSNS didn't have as much distinctions. Um, it takes a certain level of sympathetic to keep a sequential thinking alive. And when you experience the parasympathetic, you can experience a little bit more of your right brain simultaneous functions where everything happens like all at once, which you experience when you're dancing, um, when you're doing art, when you're doing music, as opposed to when you're conducting language, and so on and so forth. Okay, so you ask the person to lay down. Now what? I don't really know what this is gonna look like, but basically, um, what is distinct from each other when we're upright simply becomes um, non-sequential, non-linear in the horizontal. And, and we can look at homeostasis in this way. The more you go into a relaxed position, there is in fact something in the body that tends to rise up. The more you go horizontal, in fact, the more you will go vertical. Um, it's the same thing. The more you try to stay upright, try to stay awake, your body will send out melatonin, which will um, put you to sleep. All right, and sleep is paradoxical. When you go into the inner dance while you're asleep, it's basically the REM state, which is dream. When you go to dream, it's called paradoxical sleep because the only reason why you're sleeping is, in fact, to wake up. um, so when you go to sleep, first you need to release a lot of your tension, and then you go low, you go up again in the hypnagogic state until you go into a very, very deep delta state in the non-REM stages of sleep. And then when you start to dream, there's now delta, theta, alpha, beta, gamma, um, concomitant with each other. That was what REM is about. So all we're doing in the inner dance process is we're learning to hold deep relaxation as we're also able to hold very fast vibrations at the same time. And it's very hard to do that when you're standing up and your eyes are open. The lateralization is still at work. So there's a reason why we ask people to lay down, to begin their yoga or meditation or awakening practice by letting go. Because when you achieve a state of release or surrender while conscious, we allow for an unconscious energy to take over us because of the homeostatic operations we are used to. When you then send out more relaxant or depressant energies, there's an internal stimulation that comes through. The inner dance isn't really as magical or mysterious as some people might want to think or to box it as. It's an evolutionary thing more so. It's like we're counteracting the story of humanity that had learned to focus or think too much, and we're asking it to balance out, um, which is really an imbalance when you look at it from an old system. Like in the new balance, there are many points where it will seem very, very imbalanced because a lot of the experiences that we used to experience while we're sleeping, we now experience it while we're awake, and we're not used to it. So maybe one way we can look at the new lateralization in the horizontal is the, the verticality, the horizontality will still lead to a verticality. I didn't know I was gonna do a diamond. Maybe a better image would be something you see in the Vitruvian Man or sacred geometry. Um, when you lay down, you will homeostatically awaken all of these all at the same time. This is what REM does. This is what REM does. We're learning to make these the same. What in wakeful consciousness is distinct from each other. It's almost like you're erasing the distinction. So what you have is the realities of the low and high and the fast and the slow without knowing the difference. Um, I hope it's not too messy. What I'm trying to explain is that from an evolutionary perspective, lateralization, when we're awake, happens here, and when we go to sleep, lateralization isn't so much between the left and right side of the brain. It's more of between vibrations, frequencies, states of consciousness. Um, you know, because the left and right brain are always operating with each other. They work in teamwork. They work in tandem. But when we're doing that, when we learn to do that, the only way we could do that is by um, trying to go high during the day, and then when that becomes too much and we become too tense and stressed out, we have to go down. What does it mean that you don't have to keep doing that? Because in effect, we're wasting a lot of time going to sleep or trying to go on vacations because we're compromising so much of ourselves in beta consciousness. Um, if we learn to find our true truths, our highest potentials, where there's less contradictions that are conducting battles between the left and right brain. The right can see everything all at once. The left brain really filters out what you want to filters out what you don't want to see. It makes you look only at what's comfortable, what is needed to get you through a very dangerous world. That's what the left brain function is designed for. Like we are controlling the world, a very, very dangerous world, through language, through culture, through planning, through money, um, uh, because we wanted to dominate the planet, and we want to dominate other animals that might have been dangerous to us. So there's a reason why we are asking people to go into this process. Um, so whenever we say this statement, like, what does it mean that we are asking people to dream again? It sounds so figurative and sounds so romantic and sounds so cute. But from the point of view of the work that we do, um, there's so much we are coming into an understanding of that will one day allow us to capture what will be the averaging out. Like, where do we end up after we're done with this? Where does it all go? We don't know. It's up to us. And this is definitely holding way too much power. And this is holding way, way, way too much power. We're redesigning the body, the brain, our thinking process, and we're finding new practices that allow all of these to re rebalance, find their positions once again, holding roles um, that are usually relegated here. Dream is like this secret conversation happening between this and that, um, happening between this and that. It's like the conscious and the unconscious, the ego and God are talking to each other, planning out what do we give you when you open your eyes again that would allow you to remember your true nature. Um, I don't think we need to go to sleep so much if we knew how to host that conversation. I want to end this video by stating that in psychology and the neurosciences, it's already well determined that the flow state, the state of flow, the state of highest potential, the state of Tiger Woods, of Michael Jordan, the state of Steve Jobs, can only take place when we achieve a simultaneous uh, mind-body state where um, we're able to hold a relaxed delta theta frequency in our minds and bodies, our body mind, even as our intelligences, our creativities, our consciousness is able to freely operate, to freely explore the ocean of possibilities. Um, you know, it's like you need to rewire, you need to redesign yourself, and primarily, like I described, how human beings are so much here. And now there's so many experimentations that make sure that this swings more, maybe expand this, add more, without without letting this fall down. And we're so scared. That's the biggest fear. We don't want it to fall. Um, and I think we're finding a way to do it. So thank you for listening, and I hope this has been fruitful. See you in the next video.